Rain lashed against the windows of the old mansion like 1,000 angry whispers. The storm had rolled in suddenly, dark clouds pressing low against the hills outside the city. Inside, the grand house was quiet, too quiet. All the guests and most of the staff had gone home for the weekend, leaving only one wing dimly lit. In a small servant's room tucked beneath the stairs, Lena Morales sat beside a flickering candle, sewing the tear in her faded maid's uniform. Her fingers were thin and pale, pricked from years of work. She hummed softly, the tune barely audible under the storm. Her eyes were tired, her back ached, but her thoughts were elsewhere, on her little brother, Leo, lying sick in the hospital. Just one more month, she whispered to herself, forcing a smile. One more month, and I can pay for his surgery. The wind howled outside, rattling the shutters. Lena didn't flinch. She was used to loneliness, the empty halls, the long hours, the feeling of being invisible in a world built for others. She reached for her cup of tea, now gone cold, when a sound shattered the silence. A crash, then, a heavy thud. Lena froze. The candle wavered, its light flickering across her pale face. Her heart raced. No one was supposed to be here. Another sound, a low, guttural groan. She stood up, clutching her candle holder like a weapon. The noise came again, from just outside her door. Against every instinct telling her to stay still, she moved forward, her bare feet silent on the floor. "Hello," she whispered. No answer, only the rain. Slowly, she opened the door. The hallway was dark, lit only by the faint lightning flashing through the windows. And there, slumped against the wall, was a man, tall, broad-shouldered, soaked in blood and rain. His black shirt was torn, his face half hidden beneath wet strands of hair. Before she could react, his knees buckled, and he collapsed forward. Lena dropped the candle and caught him with both hands, gasping as his full weight fell against her. "Sir, please, can you hear me?" No response. His breathing was shallow, ragged. Panicking, she dragged him into her tiny room, the effort nearly breaking her. The man's body was heavy and warm with fever. When she laid him on her bed, she saw the gash running across his ribs, deep and bleeding. She ran to her drawer, pulling out the only things she had, an old towel, rubbing alcohol, and a strip of clean fabric. Her hands shook as she knelt beside him. "You'll be okay," she murmured, mostly to herself. "Just don't die here." As she cleaned the wound, he stirred. His hand shot up, gripping her wrist like iron. "Don't touch me," he rasped. His voice was low, hoarse, dangerous, but also weak. "You're bleeding too much," she said quickly, trying to stay calm. "If I don't help you, you'll leave." He cut her off, though his strength was fading fast. Lena met his gaze for the first time. His eyes, cold gray, sharp as blades, locked onto hers. For a heartbeat, she forgot to breathe. There was something terrifyingly intense about him, like a storm trapped in human form. But she didn't back away. "I'm not leaving you to die." He blinked, as if startled by her courage. No one ever spoke to him like that, not in fear, not in pity. Finally, he released her wrist. "Do what you want," he muttered. She cleaned the wound, biting her lip every time he hissed in pain. When she wrapped the bandage around his side, she noticed his hands, scarred, powerful, marked by years of violence. And on his wrist, just visible under the blood, was a tattoo, a black serpent wrapped around a dagger. Her breath caught. She had seen that symbol before. In the news, in whispered gossip among the servants. It was the mark of the DeLuca Syndicate, the most feared criminal organization in the city. She froze. The stories came rushing back. Ruthless deals, disappearances, the name whispered in fear, Luca DeLuca, the mafia boss no one dared to cross. Her eyes darted to his face. The sharp jawline, the commanding aura, even in pain, it all fit. Her heart pounded. No, it can't be. But deep down, she knew. The man lying in her bed, the man she had just saved, was him. Lena stepped back, trembling. What had she done? She had helped a criminal, a killer. She thought of calling the police, but something stopped her. She looked at him again, his expression peaceful for the first time, like a man finally allowed to rest. There was pain there, yes, but also something else, loneliness. She exhaled slowly and whispered, "Whatever you've done, I'll help you just this once." Outside, thunder rolled through the night. Inside, a fragile secret was born, a secret that would change both their lives forever. The storm raged long into the night, but inside Lena's small room, time seemed to stand still. The stranger, Luca de Luca, slept restlessly, his breaths uneven but growing stronger. She had done what she could, cleaned the wound, stitched it as best she could, and pressed a damp cloth against his forehead. Lena sat nearby, her knees pulled to her chest, the candlelight painting her face in golden shadow. Her mind was chaos. What have I done? She thought again and again. I helped a man who could destroy lives with a single word. Yet, despite everything, she couldn't look at him with hatred. There was something hauntingly human about him in that moment, vulnerable, broken, far from the monstrous figure whispered about in the streets. When morning came, the rain had stopped. Pale sunlight filtered through the cracked blinds, revealing the dried blood on the floor, the bandages stained crimson. Luca stirred, his eyes opening slowly. For a moment, confusion flickered there, then control. He sat up too quickly, wincing from pain. Where am I? His voice was gravel, low and commanding. In the servants' quarters, Lena answered softly. You were hurt. I found you outside the kitchen door. He scanned the room, small, plain, humble. The kind of place a man like him would never belong in. You should have left me there, he muttered. You would have died, she said simply. He looked at her, studying her face for something, fear, greed, recognition, but found none. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't asking questions. Just calm. Why did you help me? He asked finally. She hesitated. Because you were bleeding. I couldn't just let someone die. He almost smiled, but didn't. You don't even know who I am. She glanced away. I think I do. The silence stretched between them like a live wire. Luca's hand went instinctively to the tattoo on his wrist, now hidden under the bandage. His jaw tightened. Then you should be running. Screaming. Anything but sitting here. Lena shook her head. I've seen worse things than blood, mister, whoever you are. People die in hospitals every day. Fear doesn't help anyone. Her quiet strength unsettled him. He was used to screams, not kindness. Before he could reply, a noise shattered the fragile peace, a sharp knock at the back door. Both of them froze. Lena's heart pounded. No one ever used that door except staff, and none of them were supposed to be here today. Luca's instincts kicked in instantly. He stood, wincing, scanning the room for escape. Who else knows I'm here? He demanded, voice low and deadly. No one, she whispered urgently. I swear. He held up a hand for silence. The knocking came again, louder this time. Then a voice. Open up. Police. We're looking for a suspect injured in last night's shootout near the docks. Lena's eyes went wide. Shootout. That was you. Luca didn't answer. He grabbed her arm, his grip firm but not cruel. Is there another way out? The laundry chute, she said quickly. But it leads to the basement. He nodded. Good. Get me there. Without thinking, she helped him up, looping his arm around her shoulder. He was heavy, but she guided him toward the narrow hallway. The knocking turned into pounding. Voices shouted outside. When they reached the chute, Luca turned to her. You could still tell them I forced you. You'd be safe. She met his eyes. And what about you? He almost laughed. No one's ever asked me that before. A faint smile touched her lips. Then maybe it's time someone did. For a moment, something unspoken passed between them, a fragile trust neither could explain. Then, without another word, he climbed into the chute and disappeared into the darkness below. Seconds later, the back door burst open. Flashlights swept through the corridors, heavy boots echoing on the wooden floor. A uniformed officer stepped into her room. Ma'am, did you see anyone suspicious come through here? Lena's pulse thundered in her ears. She looked at the bed, the bloodstains still visible. She shook her head slowly. No, officer. Just me. The officer frowned, scanning her trembling hands. You sure about that? Yes, she whispered. Just me. They searched the hall but found nothing. Within minutes, the sound of their footsteps faded. When she was finally alone again, Lena closed the door, locked it, and pressed her back against it, breathing hard. The house felt impossibly quiet. Then she heard it, a faint sound beneath the floorboards. A metallic scrape, like someone moving in the basement. She knelt down and whispered through the cracks, "You're safe now." And from below came his low reply, barely audible but filled with emotion he hadn't shown before. "Why are you helping me, Lena?" She hesitated before answering, her voice soft but steady. "Because everyone deserves a second chance." He was silent for a long time. Then, with quiet conviction, he said, "You might regret that." But deep down, neither of them believed it. That night had forged something between them neither could undo, a secret bond born of danger, mercy, and a storm that refused to end. 2 nights had passed since the storm, but the tension in the air was heavier than thunder ever could be. Lena had done everything she could to keep Luca hidden in the basement: clean bandages, food stolen from the kitchen, water from the garden pump. Every time she opened that creaking trapdoor, she found him awake now, sitting against the cold stone wall, his gray eyes tracking every sound. He barely spoke, but when he did, his words carried weight, like a man used to giving orders and having them obeyed. "Why are you still here?" he asked one evening, his tone quieter than usual. "Because I said I'd help you," Lena replied simply, adjusting his bandage. He gave a dry smile. "You don't even know what I've done." "I don't need to," she said softly. "I see what you're doing now." Something flickered in his eyes then, respect, or maybe guilt. It was hard to tell. Outside, the world moved on. But whispers began to spread in the city: the DeLuca syndicate had fallen silent. Their boss had vanished, and other families, the Rossi, the Marcellos, were already circling like vultures. Lena didn't know any of this. But Luca did. He could feel it in the silence of his phone, in the ache in his side, in the distant sound of a car engine that didn't belong in this quiet neighborhood. That night, as Lena carried a tray of soup down to him, he stopped her at the door. "Don't come down here again." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "Something's coming," he said, his voice colder now, sharper. "I can feel it." She shook her head. "You need rest, not paranoia." Before she could finish, they both heard it: the low rumble of several engines pulling up the hill. Headlights swept across the front of the mansion like hunting dogs catching a scent. Lena froze. Who are they?" Luca's jaw tightened. "Not police. Worse." He stood, ignoring the pain that flared in his ribs, and reached into the shadows to retrieve something she hadn't noticed before: a small black handgun, wiped clean, fully loaded. Her eyes widened. "You can't fight them, there's too many." "I don't need to fight them," he said, checking the chamber with practiced ease. "I just need to make sure they don't find you." She grabbed his arm. "No, you can't go out there." He turned to her, and for the first time, there was something raw in his voice. "Lena, listen to me. You saved my life. That means something. I won't let them take that from you." The engine stopped. Doors slammed. Then, silence. Moments later, the heavy sound of boots on gravel. Luca moved fast, pulling her into the corner. "Stay here. Don't make a sound." He climbed the basement steps and pressed himself against the wall near the trapdoor, his eyes fixed on the faint light above. Then the voices came. "Spread out. He's in here somewhere. DeLuca doesn't die that easy." Lena covered her mouth, heart pounding. She could see their shadows through the cracks: tall men in dark coats, carrying guns. The first one reached the basement door. He kicked it open, gun raised. Bang! The shot echoed through the house like thunder. Lena gasped. Another shout, another shot. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. She wanted to scream, to run, but then she heard Luca's voice, calm and deadly, above the chaos. "You made a mistake coming here." More gunfire. 2 bodies hit the floorboards above. She could hear the others shouting orders, retreating, firing blindly into the darkness. Then, silence again. The trapdoor creaked open. Lena flinched, but it was him. Blood stained his shirt again, but his eyes were still sharp. "We have to move," he said. "You're hurt. Not as bad as them." He grabbed her hand, leading her out the back way, through the old garden path. The night air was cold, the sky cloudless now, stars scattered like broken glass. They ran until the mansion was just a shadow behind them. When they finally stopped, breathless, she turned to him. "You killed them, didn't you?" He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, "They were coming to kill you too." Lena looked down, tears welling in her eyes, not from fear, but from the weight of everything she didn't understand. "What are you going to do now?" she whispered. He looked toward the dark horizon. "Finish what I started. And me." He turned to her. "You go back. Forget me." She shook her head. "You know I can't." He stared at her for a long moment, the streetlight glinting off his eyes. Then, to her surprise, he smiled, faint, sad, but real. "Then you're more dangerous than anyone I've ever met," he said. Before she could reply, a black car appeared at the end of the street, silent, deliberate. Luca's men. He stepped forward, his silhouette strong against the rising dawn. "They'll take you somewhere safe. Tell them I said you're under my protection." "Will I see you again?" she asked softly. He paused, his voice low and certain. "If fate allows it." As the car doors closed and pulled away, Lena watched through the window as he disappeared into the night, the most feared man in the city, saved by the kindness of the one person who should have feared him most. And somewhere deep in her heart, she knew. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning.